What's up, people? One Up Punch here. So I'm going back to Ground Branch version 1035 with this specific update because one, it's pretty big. Two, there's a bunch of stuff with Ground Branch I want to talk about. And three, it's a new video for the week. Like I said, each week I do a video talking about different things for early access, whether it be updates for something brand new, maybe something big or a change happened, or whatever else goes on. But let's go ahead and talk about 1035. Essentially what they did and a lot of the changes that were made from 1034 to 35. Essentially, they changed a lot of the UI, and they did these changes with the actual custom weapon UI you see here. In 1034, they actually had a different way of being able to see all the different accessories, and it wasn't as streamlined as you see here. Like I said, it was mostly kind of like a long list with arrows pointing down that you click on it and it shows you the accessory, whether it be a holographic sight, ACOG scope, LCAN, voodoo, whatever. And now they have it to where it's actually got everything on there, and you can go check using the check mark stuff on those specific boxes to the left-hand side of the screen. This is actually a new map that they came out today called Ranch. Personally, I wasn't sure actually what maps were currently out, other than the fact that they reworked a lot of different maps that were currently in the game. Like, for example, they were talking about Depot, Power Station, and Small Town. A bunch of reworks with a lot of locations that were added into it, though I cannot say because I never really messed around with those maps. The only maps I messed around with was the Ukraine mission, which another thing I want to talk about is the operations, but that'll be later on actually in the video. What I want to talk about with Ranch is that when I started messing around with this map and I was trying to find where people were and what things were doing and how the AI kind of reacts, which again, another mechanic that they did, full rework of the AI and how they behave, because I remember when you actually got into the fights on 747 or even going to tanker, they would either shoot at you, charge at you, or sometimes they would go around corners and kind of like lean. I remember that too. They are more evil because now they'll throw grenades at you. Not just flashbangs like over and over and over, but actual grenades and then blow you up, and then, there's no reason to worry about flashbangs anymore. Another thing I wanted to touch on was the guns. They came out with actually a couple of new guns for new assault weapons and I think one sidearm. But the new guns they came out with is the AK-103 Alpha, G36K Custom, AUG A3, LVAW, the AS Val and ASM Val, and last but not least the BSS Venturas, with the sidearm being the Mark 24 Cap, which is CAP in all capital letters. I think they're all pretty good guns. The G36 does sound kind of weird though when you shoot the thing. And I mean, I had an LCAN on that, shooting different targets. I want to see how all the guns kind of played, too, before going off into these missions and fighting off people in new different areas. If you can see the graphic kind of being a little bit pixelated, I did have this at the lowest possible settings, so there might be some weird kind of like pixelation on the terrain. I play Ground Branch on the lowest possible settings so that I'm able to do multiple different things on my computer without it just like locking on me. I've had times where I play Ground Branch on like highest settings and my screen would turn black and then my computer would start to rev up like my motherboard was locked up or something, and I don't really want to take the chances with it being in early access. That being said, it still works pretty good on low and medium settings while doing recording stuff. So when it comes down to the actual updates, the main takeaway from this is that it's going to be a lot of like the different weapons that come out you're going to have to get used to, like the AK-103 Alpha, which essentially is just like the AK-105 and some other different variants of AK. Out of this list of guns that actually came out with this update, my current favorite would be the LVAW, mainly because it looks like a longer honey badger, but I think it fires 300 blackout from what I've seen, and it's kind of insane watching somebody get dropped in a single shot from a silenced weapon. But then again, when it comes down to shooting stuff in the head, essentially it's going to be an instant down anyway unless they're wearing a helmet, but I don't see any different enemies that you fight actually have helmets on. In 1034, I do seem to remember a lot of the enemies had like balaclavas on. They had like some pretty heavy vests that were tan with tan pants running around. And some of the units actually in the different areas that you fight, like Lone Wolf, 747, or going into the ranch area, is different units. They might have like different colors, different fatigues, different kind of badges and stuff, but I have not seen anybody with a helmet on yet, and that's including the operations mission you go and fight, which is I think in Ukraine is what it said, and that's the only mission that you can do operations for. Do not know how much you're actually going to get in terms of a total amount when 1.0 releases for Ground Branch. But that being said, with this new update, I wanted to see all the new stuff that happened, and it's also a nice game to come back to, kind of check out the new maps and see what new stuff they did. So with these guns, I want you to listen to the actual audio of the firearms themselves. I haven't done this in a while since SCP-5K. I think it was before the Antarctica mission, but here are some of the guns that I was shooting in the actual shooting range. And those were the new guns that were added in 1035. Now let's go ahead and talk about the big thing that I didn't talk about in the early stage of the video, though it was kind of hinted here and there about it, and that's the operations. In operations, they have a mission called Silent Reach, and what it says in the patch notes is that operations menu and campaign mission demo. When you first launch 1035, you might notice the new operations option on the main menu. Right below training, this option will take you to a new interface for viewing and selecting campaign missions, to be included and expanded in the future via hotspots around the globe and some other things. This is also where you'll find a first campaign mission demo, Silent Reach, set on the map Depot, which is the Depot map if you haven't played that in Lone Wolf. The mission demo can be played either with 3 AI teammates or up to 3 friends on Steam, and this can be either or. So if you have friends on actual Steam to play with on Ground Branch when they have copies of it, they could play with you, so you have a 4-man squad. But if you don't, the AI teammates will go with you. I did not know this earlier on, but before we get into that, I want to touch on the AI themselves, because I've had issues with them, and of course the game's early access, so there's going to be problems. But sometimes they'll get stuck on walls, they'll get stuck on dirt, they'll do that little dance, and sometimes they won't turn around fast enough to shoot whatever's coming after them. However, if they see a line of sight of an enemy, they will call out enemy spotted and gun them down. So if you're able to go up behind a squad of enemies, let's say if they don't even know what the hell's happening and they're just going through their patrol, if they see them, they are gone. You will never see anything as long as your teammates are alive. Going on to the other topic I was talking about earlier, when it comes down to actually calling out stuff and using the console command, or rather commands, to tell your characters where to go. I had this issue that I didn't know what it was when I first played. So when I actually got into the game and I found out that through the patch notes, it says you have to hold down the K key, or the thumb button for the mouse. My default was the K key, and when you hold on to that, you actually get the commands pop up for fall in, cover, and when they actually tell them to take cover, they will run backwards and go to like a tree branch or like a wall or like an actual complete tree, and they'll wrap around it. If they go and fall in, then they'll come back to you. But if they go and say like forward and breach, they'll actually go in a straight line like they're about to breach into a room and keep walking that specific direction. If they see anything, they will start to fire immediately. You don't have to worry about that. Going down the patch notes, they talk about the behaviors and systems. AI may now throw frag grenades at players in some cases, which I've talked about before. AI that feel under pressure may throw a smoke grenade to cover a retreat, which that has happened many times. They'll actually throw multiple smoke grenades and run backwards rather than forwards to you. AI will now see and investigate flashlight beams and laser pointers, which I haven't done yet, but that's also work in progress. Then they also talk about AI can be blinded temporarily by flashlights pointed at their face at close range, which didn't really work out beforehand, though I'd like to see what happens in veteran difficulty if you do that. Maybe they might blow your head off anyway. And the last thing was AI patrol route system has been overhauled, so patrol AI should be more unpredictable and cover their routes more thoroughly. Enemy AI spawn points now have optional day and night states, so some missions will be different distributions of enemy AI depending on the time of day. A number of single-player missions, including Compound, Depot, and others, have been updated to incorporate these new day and night spawns. In Compound, for example, you are less likely to see enemy AI patrolling fields during the night and more likely to see idle enemy AI in houses. And that so far is pretty much all I got for the patch notes, other than some new accessories and equipment, like a new pistol attachment called the DBALPL, a new scope called the PSO-1M2, a couple new red dot sights, OKP, Cobra, MRO, and MS-2000, as well as a new explosive called the M4 Slam. They added some new things for clothing and some new stuff for the faces. But before I go, basically you got a bunch of new stuff with reworked maps. You have a new map, which is Ranch. You have this new operation with this specific thing with Silent Reach, and then you have the different objectives you have to go to, like blow up a SAM site or anti-air missiles, or then take out like a commander of a PMC coalition. So if you're looking for more things to do in Ground Branch, definitely check it out right now for 1035. And like I said, I've been One Nut Punch. Thanks for watching, everybody, as per usual, and I'll see you in the next one.